Number 1. Gooseworks, the creator of the series, mentioned that her favorite movie is the end of Evangelion. This was reflected in one of the final posters shared before the theatrical release, which is heavily inspired by the film's cover, featuring a giant Jack's head instead of Ray's. Number 2. Before the theatrical screening began, we got a brief reappearance from everyone's favorite Digital Circus character, the talking orange fish. He goes over the theater rules and gives a recap of the series, mentioning that Caine used to be in charge of this, but since Caine is dead, he has to take over. He also mentions that he almost died himself. Ironically, right at the end of the episode, we see him get caught and eventually cooked by the group, meaning his demise was actually closer than Caine's. Number 3. At the end of Jax's sequence, during the montage of his memories, the classic song Isn't She Lovely plays. Originally written by Stevie Wonder, this version is performed by Jobby the Hung, who also voices Disappearing Guy. Following the theatrical release, the song experienced a resurgence in popularity, a phenomenon widely known as the Colbert Bump, a term originating from Stephen Colbert's former show, where any guest would see a massive spike in popularity, leading to a surge in searches and streams. Number 4. Interestingly, this song was originally written to celebrate the birth of Wonder's daughter, Aisha, praising the absolute innocence of a newborn. This perfectly fits Jax, a character who used to hide behind cynicism, violence, and apathy toward the world, but finally showed his vulnerable human side. This gave a new meaning to everything he has been through, with this honest version of himself acting as a rebirth for the character. Furthermore, Gooseworks has openly declared her love for the character, calling it a dedication to her own animated son. Number 5. He reveals another devastating truth. Scratch's secret project was actually a brain scanner, and they are simply copies that Caine managed to boot up. These are two tragedies that the circus residents can barely process. The files are visible in the commands Kinger types in, showing that they take up just over 234 kilobytes, which means they weigh less than some modern image files, which explains why they thought the project didn't work, and why the folder they were stored in was labeled obsolete. Number 6. This means that the VR headsets everyone remembered putting on weren't a way to control their human bodies, nor were they still physically plugged into the machine. Instead, the headset acted as a mind scanner right at the moment they put it on. This had been theorized since day one, but the lingering question was whether this process killed them, like in Pantheon, or if the humans were completely unaware and just went on with their carefree lives as in the Black Mirror's episode White Christmas. Number 7. This leads us to one of the most confusing scenes in the episode, where we see Caine approaching the Wi-Fi door at the Blue Street Cafe, while at the same time we see a parallel of a red dot approaching the obsolete scanner's folder. Some interpreted this as how Caine looked, using the same visual representation as his training in episode 8. However, it seems to be a memory of how Caine found this folder before creating the circus. Functioning as a sort of flashback to how it all started, the red files are the scanned minds of the original development team. Caine fixes the files and transfers them into his digital world, with Scratch being the first to appear. Number 8. Interestingly, it's revealed that Caine had access to their original names from the very beginning, and likely chose to withhold them on purpose. This is how we discover that Scratch's real name was always Mike Dobby, just as the Wacky Watch page hinted at in the Spudsies episode, where they advertised the Dobby dog for $57.57. Number 9. What's interesting is that in this flashback, we see 10 different scan files, but in episode 8, only 7 characters are shown on that first day at the circus asking Caine what's going on. This means there were 3 other scans that Caine either didn't give bodies to, or they were somewhere else in the circus. This isn't a plot hole though, since the pilot showed 4 other crossed out doors with faces of characters who were never revealed. This implies that 3 of them were part of the original team, and 1 arrived after Ragatha but abstracted before Ribbit, since Gooseworks confirmed Ribbit was the last one to abstract before Calmo. The possible candidates include a furry pink cyclops, a sad clown-like creature, an oyster-shaped character, and a light green creature with an orange bow on its head. It seems we'll never know who is who. Number 10. Another important fact is that the Wi-Fi protocol wasn't released until 1997. The first compatible Wi-Fi routers weren't available until 1999, and companies didn't start adopting the technology en masse until 2002. Caine was created in 1996, and Scratch's mind scanners are dated 1999. This means that even though CNA was in an abandoned building, as Pomni suggests when recounting how she got to the circus, the company lasted long enough to equip the office with Wi-Fi routers before shutting down. Number 11. The real names of the current circus characters are revealed. Pomni is Abigail Brooks. She is still an accountant, but is much more sociable. She runs an urban exploration YouTube channel, which is actually real and was created on April 20, 2026. Despite having no public videos, it has gained over 10,000 subscribers since the movie premiered. Her name means the source of joy, a nod to the fact that Pomni is the heart of the circus members. Number 12. Ragatha is Susie J. Ackerman. Her last name comes from Old High German/English meaning plowman or farmer, referencing the fact that Susie grew up on a farm. Although she comes from a wealthy family, she has cut ties with her abusive mother and achieved independent success in real estate. She still loves horses and owns one named Daisy Bell, the same name as the song Caine sings to annoy Zubul. She's interviewed for Property Plus, which interestingly exists in real life as a weekly international real estate newsletter. Number 13. Gangle is Zoe Raghavan. Her last name means descendant of Raghu, a famous king in Hinduism, confirming her South Asian heritage. Zoe means life in Greek, reflecting her second chance at life after being hit by a truck. This event pushed her to abandon her fast food job, pursue her artistic dreams by joining a design studio, and start her own manga-inspired webcomic, Love to Go-Go, which draws heavily from her own past in the fast food industry. Just like with Pomni, there's a real account called Mozo26 where artwork of her project is posted. Number 14. Zubul is Riley Vercelis, a fittingly gender-neutral name for the character. They are the owner and head bartender of the Triangle Bar, whose symbol is a pink triangle matching their appearance in the circus. They know their regulars well and have created a safe LGBTQ+ focused community space where people can truly be themselves. The irony here is that even though Zubul and Jax hated each other in the circus, their real-world counterparts hang out at this very bar. Number 15. Kinger's name is Grant Best, a very fitting name since he is literally the best. He is still married to Queenie, whose real name is Destiny, and they have two daughters named Anne and Sam. Caine only manages to pull up Anne's Facebook profile, but it shows that she followed in her father's footsteps and became a software engineer. Number 16. Jax's name is Leroy Mateo. It's believed that his name is a nod to Leroy Jenkins, a term popularized in World of Warcraft used to describe an impulsive, reckless person who causes trouble for everyone else. He ran away from home and spent several months living on the streets before getting help from a friend, getting back on his feet, and landing a job as a delivery driver. Number 17. Jax reveals the event that made him run away to Ribbit. One day he told his mother something, and she reacted by losing her temper and shouting insults. Eventually, she went to hug him, which startled him, causing him to push her to the ground. When she didn't get up, he fled, thinking he had killed her. After he finishes telling the story, Ribbit places her bow on one of his ears. This implies that she understood the secret Jax had told his mother. It's heavily implied it was about his gender identity, such as being trans or exploring his femininity in some way. Number 18. Many thought the episode's main plot would revolve around a world without Caine and how they survived without him. Instead, Jax became the main character of the episode, which served as a sudden sort of biopic of his life. It allowed us to learn about his past and how his mind was structured. It also revealed that all abstracted characters keep their memories, desires, fantasies, and guilt locked away. Number 19. Kinger had already mentioned that darkness calms the abstracted ones, but Pomni shows that touching them doesn't just cause a glitch, it can also transport you into the person's subconscious. Because of this, it's highly possible that during the moment Kinger remembers, when his wife abstracted in front of him and gave him one last caress, he actually entered her subconscious, but subsequently lost those memories. Number 20. Jax's mind features several doors that display hypothetical scenarios of how he imagines he would react if other characters abstracted. It borrows from the classic fiction trope known as battle in the center of the mind, a mental landscape where an actual physical fight occurs against alternate versions of oneself, representing an internal struggle. Number 21. The first is an abstracted Ragatha. He stares blankly at her door. Pomni appears and tells him that he can talk to her, and that she is the only one who can help him. Jax highlights the part of Pomni's personality that views herself as a savior who can fix everything. Because of this, he chokes her, and instead of seeing her trademark color shifts, she turns an increasingly dark blue, on the verge of passing out. It's believed this shows that Ragatha was an emotional pillar for him, and losing her would break him and turn him extremely violent. The strangling of Pomni is a direct reference to the end of Evangelion, evoking the iconic scene where Shinji chokes Asuka at the end of the film. Number 22. In the door where Gangle is bossing everyone around while wearing a plastic mask, we're told Zubul has abstracted. Here we see Jax in his maid outfit ending up seducing Gangle, slipping her his room key so they can meet up. This proves that despite having picked on Gangle for so long, he actually had feelings for her. Number 23. In the third door, the scenario features Gangle's abstraction. The setting is heavily cartoonish, and Zubul blames Jax for causing it, pulling out a pair of chainsaws a la Chainsaw Man. However, everything follows a Looney Tunes animation style. Jax talks as if he were Bugs Bunny, and uses classic gags from Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner chases, complete with the classic "yikes" sign when Zubul's about to fall, and Jax signing off exactly like in the Looney Tunes shorts. Number 24. These three personas of Jax are shown in a room playing cards. The maid outfit Jax embodies the sarcastic, cruel troll personality he usually displays. The middle one, with dilated pupils, is the comedic sociopath who pushes his dark humor to the extreme, and the chaotic tune denies all seriousness, treating everything like a joke. They keep soft Jax as a slave for their own entertainment, and yell at the real Jax's door whenever he makes a noise. Number 25. The glimpses into Jax's life have led many to believe that after running away from home, he stole a car and drove far away, but eventually abandoned it and started living on the streets. It is true that he was homeless before arriving at the circus, which might explain how he ended up seeking shelter to sleep at C&A and accidentally getting his mind scanned. Number 26. When Jax arrives at the circus, only Kaufmo, Kinger, Ragatha, and Ribbit are there. Initially, the shock is so overwhelming that he throws himself on the floor and refuses to let anyone touch him. However, eventually he starts processing the situation and with Ribbit's help manages to integrate. He laughs for the first time thanks to one of her jokes, which annoys Kaufmo since he wasn't the one to make him laugh. They tell Kaufmo he isn't funny, and contrary to the comments from Ragatha or Gangle, who implied he took this very badly, Kaufmo actually takes it in stride. Number 27. We see that Ribbit and Ragatha were close, but after Jax arrived, Ribbit started drifting away from her to spend more time with him and Kaufmo. This didn't seem to bother Ragatha, as Kinger wasn't as crazy back then and they were closer. Ragatha knew Jax and Ribbit had a special bond and wanted to support him when Ribbit abstracted, but Jax's grief had already forged an aggressive persona to shield himself from the pain and guilt of her abstraction, forcing Ragatha to promise never to mention her again. Number 28. After Jax's confession, his defense mechanism kicked in, and he began pushing Ribbit away in the same way he alienated Pomni in the weapons episode. He became cold, blunt, and highly cruel. The inciting incident was the snow adventure, where Jax told Ribbit that he had been manipulated by her into letting her into his head and personal life. This completely isolated Ribbit, who missed their talks and now felt guilty for asking him to open up. Following this, Jax tells Kaufmo not to believe anything she says. However, Ribbit always kept her word and never once spilled Jax's secret. Number 29. Right after her abstraction, Gangle arrives at the circus. Unlike the others, she seemingly spawns in a sitting position, making a rippling sound. It doesn't take long for her mask to break, and it's Jax who gives her her name. He brushes aside the grief of losing Ribbit and instantly starts picking on the newcomer to ensure she wouldn't get as close to him as Ribbit had. Number 30. Despite everything, Gangle had genuinely grown fond of Jax. This becomes crystal clear after they set up the tent to keep him in the dark. It causes her to cry inconsolably and retreat to her room until Zubul goes in to remind her that they are still human, and it's normal to feel that pain, even for Jax. Interestingly, Marissa Lenti, Gangle's voice actress, shared that in the original script, Gangle was supposed to cry much harder, screaming and sobbing until she completely broke down, but she acted out the reaction we saw instead. Number 31. It is revealed that Kaufmo's abstraction caused Jax a great deal of pain. However, right before bursting into tears over it, he scolds himself to hold it back. He manages to repress it successfully, as in the first episode, he shows zero emotion regarding the event, continuing to treat everything like a joke. This is likely why he says Kaufmo is doing great when asked about him. If he had told the truth, he might have let his true feelings slip. Number 32. When Jax finally breaks down crying, showing that he didn't want this ending, even if he brought it upon himself, he hugs Pomni and tells her he hates her for making things complicated. His final words, however, are, "I don't want to go." These are the exact same words spoken by the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who, right before his violent regeneration in the 2010 special, which instantly became a pop culture cornerstone, often regarded as one of the most emotional farewells in television history. Number 33. Caine's death didn't last very long. Some believe the void acts as a system cache, creating a backup of Caine before he is completely deleted. However, Bubble doesn't seem to share the same luck, simply floating in the void like just another bubble. Being on the verge of deletion by the humans makes Caine question if they are the bad guys, or if he is truly the evil one. He drifts through the void in a fetal position for a long time, until he reaches the internet door. He recalls the moment he first accessed the mind scanner files, but realizes his creative abilities have diminished. Number 34. Upon reaching the Wi-Fi door, he gets corrupted, just like when he first accessed the mind scanners and connected to them, giving them form to interact with them and bringing the first human into the circus. However, interacting with the internet seems to work differently. His eyes flood with data, and it appears he is the one adapting to this new connection, browsing the internet just like any human, using search engines and web pages. Number 35. After he downloads information on humanity and the internet cuts out, he realizes that free will is what makes humans interesting. But his corruption strikes again, blaming humans for everything. Ultimately, Caine's logic wins out. He realizes they cannot coexist, so he extracts the blue AI he had consumed, which many believe represents Bubble. He says goodbye to it in the void, losing a significant amount of power they possess together. Number 36. When he returns to the circus, the moon advises him to give them time, because all good things take time. She adds that she still loves Caine. He tells her he never programmed her to love him, to which she replies that she knows. This serves as a realization that he can be loved without having to force others to do so. Interestingly, the creator mentioned early on that this line from the moon was improvised and meant to be a throwaway joke, but it ended up carrying a lot of emotional weight. Number 37. Telling them about their lives outside the simulation allows them to accept their lives in the circus as separate entities from their real-world counterparts. They start painting a mural dedicated to several of the abstracted characters, and their adventures turn into tabletop RPG sessions with Gangle as the dungeon master, who also shows Caine her drawings. They return to the softball stadium to play Ragatha's favorite sport. Interestingly, Pomni wears the number 57 on her uniform, a recurring number in the series. They live in harmony with other NPCs, like the glowing queen and her children. The basement is converted into an aquarium-like space where they can safely interact with the abstracted ones. Zooble uses their various detachable parts to do whatever they please, from painting to mixing cocktails. Everyone eats together at a round table, echoing the end of the first episode, but with the major difference that now everyone is actually enjoying life in the digital circus. The final scene closes with Pomni breaking the fourth wall in a very Jax-esque way, but she does it to say goodbye to the audience before going on her way. This serves to signal that this is the definitive end to the series. Even though many things remain a mystery and some plot threads are left unresolved, it firmly stands as a conclusive finale. Number 39. The credits showed that the tent continues to expand, adding new locations that connect the main map. There's even a kind of water slide connecting both ends. Each zone is unique, ranging from desert areas and colorful pyramids to rivers and various structures, showing that their world never stopped growing. Number 40. Despite Bubble's absence, we see Caine bake a cookie of him and look at it fondly. Interestingly, at the end of the credits, we see him place a blue orb on a pedestal inside a locked glass display case. This appears to be the blue AI that he left drifting in the void. Many interpret this as him giving it a privileged, safe spot, while others argue that since it was the part that corrupted him and fed him negative thoughts, he couldn't leave it loose in the void, deciding instead to lock it away Poppy Playtime style. Number 41. We see that even though Caine no longer lives strictly to create adventures, they still spend their time together in various ways, exploring mines, forming a band, celebrating Christmas in ugly sweaters with Kinger acting as Santa, and even going on RPG adventures run by Gangle, where Caine plays the bard, Zooble is the warrior, Pomni is the mage, Ragatha is the berserker, and Kinger is the cleric. Number 42. It seems the profanity filter restriction is completely lifted, and Zooble's wish from episode 6 to have the ability to have sex is fulfilled. We see several hearts floating out of their room, and Gangle's door is left open, making the popular ship between the two characters completely canon, and proving that Gooseworks' claim about there being no romance between the characters was entirely false. Number 43. At the end of the episode, we witness a chance encounter with all the real-world counterparts of the characters running into each other at a bus stop. This makes for a bittersweet ending. These people who are so tightly knit and share such strong bonds in the digital world are complete strangers who have barely even glanced at each other in the real world. Number 44. Glitch took the time to ensure that during the episode's credits, the respective voice actors for each dubbed language were listed, giving them the recognition they deserve. This is something that many Hollywood productions rarely bother doing, so it's highly commendable that they decided to do this for the theatrical release. It's a feature that isn't possible on YouTube and was exclusive to the cinemas. Number 45. There were many complaints about this episode, with one of the most talked about being the disappointment that Jax abstracted off-screen. This was an event many had been anticipating given how close he came to it in earlier episodes, but exactly how it happened remains a mystery. However, to make up for it, Glitch released the Abstraction Animates collection. This line shows how every character begins to abstract, including Caine, who gets covered in bubbles while displaying the red and blue colors of his madness state, which somewhat confirms that Bubble was the blue AI. The fact that Jax's figure is posed sitting down and hugging his knees makes his fate that much more heartbreaking. Number 46. Another piece of merchandise that plays on Jax's suffering is the magnetic keychain set he shares with Ribbit. Their polarity was swapped, so that instead of clicking together, they repel each other. This is completely canon to the plot, making it painfully clear that no matter how hard you try, these good friends can never be together. Number 47. At the end of the theatrical screenings, a QR code was included to access merchandise for the final episode of the Digital Circus. They added 3 exclusive items that were only available during the film's theatrical run: a poster, a Pomni Head popcorn bucket, and the Pomni Head enamel pin. However, if you bought the full bundle of all products, they threw in a poster featuring iconic characters from across Glitch's shows sitting in a movie theater, an item that was strictly limited to 1 per customer. Number 48. And to wrap up the merch, we got a final pair of animates. First is Kaufmo's, whose box describes him as everyone's favorite jokester who will always be in your house unless you point him to the exit. The one that truly breaks your heart though is Ribbit's. She's labeled as a good friend, and her pose is identical to Jax's animates. This means you can display them either together or apart, as both options are completely canon. Number 49. To express gratitude for the success of the screening and the series finale, Glitch CEO Kevin Lerdley-Coggle thanked the fans for getting them this far. He told everyone at Glitch how proud he was of them and their immense talent, and he reminded the industry that animation is an art form, a deeply personal, feeling-filled expression of humanity. He encouraged everyone to keep creating and sharing their work, accompanying his message with an image of Pomni hitting the same pose as Mario on the cover of Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. Number 50. The final episode is titled Remember, and its thumbnail features Jax and Pomni sitting next to the lamppost where Jax's true personality is found after his abstraction. Interestingly, Pomni literally translates to remember in Russian, giving her role as the protagonist of the series an even deeper meaning.